Hi, everybody, and thanks for tuning in. We will be starting in about 1 minute. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us on another live today. We are here with Fred Ramos. Welcome.
Hey, Melanie. Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you for being here. For those of you who don't know Fred, he's the Senior Vice President and Chief Communications Officer of Corporate Communications at Highmark Health. He is a longtime friend and member of the Pittsburgh Metropolitan Area Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and he's very active in the community. If you don't know Fred, I don't know where you've been, because Fred is everywhere. Thank you again for taking the time for us today. Fred, I see that you're wearing a mask. We're a little bit social distant. You want to tell me a little bit about that?
Well, I'm just doing what I can to, protect you, Melanie. Just got back from going to the mailbox, so I wanted to make sure that I had my mask on when I went outside and protect the folks here in my neighborhood. But for the conversation, I'll go ahead and take it off so you can hear me better. And it's a message, too, that I'll just want to convey to everybody as we close out our conversation as well, with the importance of us doing what we can to help each other during this pandemic situation.
Definitely. That's what it's all about now. It's helping each other. And I think that's always been so consistent for me with you. And something I've learned from you is we always have to look out for everyone else. So we will definitely get to that topic. For those of you who don't know, this speaker series is to highlight Latinos within the community, to show all the amazing things that we are doing. And Fred, we want to get to know you a little bit for starters. Where do you come from, and what are your influences?
Well, actually, Melanie, I was born in Juncos, Puerto Rico, back in the day. So I'm Puerto Rican. Was there till I was about maybe 5 years old, and then moved to the mainland, into Chicago, actually, to be part of our family migration, so to speak, as our father moved us all to Chicago, primarily for him to find greater economic opportunities. Started his own business, and he died when I was about 9 years old. So after about whatever it was, 9 or 10 years or so in the States, ended up going back to Puerto Rico. We thought to live forever after my father died, and then my mother couldn't get used to it. We stayed there for a year. I was there in grade school. And then moved back to Chicago again. She remarried, and when I was going into my freshman year in high school, we moved back to Puerto Rico again, presumably for the rest of our lives. And again, she couldn't get used to it. So I was there for about a year or so, probably one of the best years of my life, because it really gave me a chance to get more in touch with the culture, the language. I studied there, had a chance to really appreciate all that Puerto Rico is all about. And then pretty much raised in Chicago ever since. And I've been here in Pittsburgh since about 2016. So a long career in corporate communications, PR, with some great organizations like Allstate Insurance Company, Merck Pharmaceutical, Nationwide Insurance, and now with Highmark Health. So it's been quite the journey. And as we like to say in Puerto Rico, la fiesta sigue.
I love it. Well, where did Pittsburgh come into the mix? I mean, was that with Highmark, or were you here before that?
So, Pittsburgh for me, just coincidentally, was always a pit stop, right? Because living in Chicago, either myself or after I got married and had some kids, we used to take quite a number of family trips to the East Coast, New York City, Jersey, etc., visiting friends, family, DC. And Pittsburgh was always a real nice pit stop for us, right? I grew up, like many people around the country, for sure in Puerto Rico and here in Pittsburgh, idolizing Roberto Clemente. As I was growing up, like many kids back in the day, aspired to be a Major League Baseball player, retire, get into sportscasting. So Clemente was always a big influence for me and an inspiration. And I was a long time and still am Chicago Cubs fan. So baseball's always been core to me and part of kind of who I am as I grew up, both from a teamwork standpoint and backing each other up. So it's been quite the influence. So Pittsburgh was always a pit stop. I always appreciated Pittsburgh. Always coming to town and see a ball game. And I had a chance before joining Highmark Health to be actually working for this company called Zurich Insurance Group, a global multinational who had headquarters actually in Zurich, Switzerland. So I started with them just outside Chicago, and then got an opportunity as an expat to go actually work in Zurich, Switzerland for about 3.5 years or so, which was a great experience. Anybody who has a chance to actually work, live, experience, even for 6 months overseas, I would encourage you to do it. It really kind of broadens your perspective about the global issues that we all face in our world. And when I came back and repatriated, I got one of those proverbial calls from an executive recruiter talking about a position here at Highmark Health in Pittsburgh. And the more I learned about it, the more intrigued I was. And needless to say, they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. And one of the first things that I did after I got the job offer is I ran across the river, literally over the Clemente Bridge, went to the Clemente statue, took a picture with myself, Clemente in the background, and the Highmark Health building in the background. So that's how I kind of came to Pittsburgh via the opportunity that I have right now, having come from Switzerland and by way of Chicago here to Pittsburgh.
That's amazing. And for those of you watching, you touched really briefly on your connection with Clemente and that Pittsburgh was always a pit stop, but you have made it your home. And in the time that I've known you, I've gotten to know your deep connection between Pittsburgh, Puerto Rico, number 21. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, again, like I said, I grew up idolizing Roberto Clemente. Had aspired myself to be a baseball player, so played it 24/7 like most kids that are into it, or with any sport. Morning, afternoon, night, after school, in school, etc. Played ball in high school, played ball in college, and for me, Clemente was always one of the influences in my life, let alone as a baseball player, because he was probably one of the best players ever to play, Hall of Famer. And beyond the play and his persona on the field was his equally, probably even more important persona off the field. Obviously an icon and a legend in Puerto Rico when he was alive, and probably even more so after he tragically passed in that horrific airplane crash on New Year's Eve back in 71, 72. So for me, he always, I think, inspired me to kind of be all in. Play hard, do the best you can, be a good team player, right? Put it all out in the field. So I modeled my game after him. I think for any person growing up, and anyone that can really kind of serve as an inspiration for you in terms of believing in yourself, having confidence in yourself, demonstrating, that you can get it done, si se puede, so to speak. I think is always good. And for him, for me, Clemente was that for me, had always been a source of inspiration. So needless to say, when Hurricane Maria hit back in 2017, it was a very spiritual opportunity for me during that time, because it was an opportunity to do what Clemente himself had done back in the day before he perished. What can we do to help? The Pittsburgh Pirates called us at Highmark, wanting to see if we can partner with them. And during that time, if you recall, Melanie, Ron Alvarado and I were already working together with members of the chamber. We pulled in Brother's Brother here in town. And I was able to tell the leadership over at the Pittsburgh Pirates that actually we've got Roberto Clemente Jr., who's on our board. working with us. We got Luis Clemente Jr. working with us. We're actually working together to get something that might this not be an opportunity for 1 + 1 to equal 21, because his players were all looking to do something. Many of them were Boricuas and still are. So it was a great opportunity to kind of bring a whole coalition of people together with what I would say Clemente's almost a guiding hand, helping us, because there was a very spiritual connection with Clemente during that time period. I think Hurricane Irma had hit during Clemente night here back in 17. And you could just see the 21 carved out in the right field, outfield, just almost glowing from how bright the sun was. And it almost felt like Clemente was telling us, hey guys, we're going to need your help. Get ready. And sure enough, a couple of weeks later, when Hurricane Maria came, I mean, we were put to the test, and I think we rose to the occasion and did a great job, I think, providing some support and coalescing the city of Pittsburgh, which was incredible. I mean, you saw all the contributions that people made throughout the city during that time period. We probably helped the Pirates fill 3 jumbo boat airplanes of cargo that went to Puerto Rico, and then a bunch of other activities to support, the aftermath of the hurricane, the recovery. So real close connection to the great one, so to speak, and to just, being there, doing the right thing, and being there to help when people need us the most.
You definitely did him and all of Puerto Rico and Pittsburgh proud in those moments. The work that you did was tremendous and made a huge difference in the lives of so many. So on behalf of everyone, I want to thank you. But I want you to talk a little bit about what your experience was like. I remember sitting at dinner with you not long after the hurricane, and we were celebrating, but it was very tense. A lot of people hadn't heard from family members. What was your personal experience like with the connection to your family and the island during that time?
Well, it was interesting. Again, it was probably one of the worst hurricanes to ever hit the island. Probably the one as big, if not bigger, was El Huracán San Ciriaco from back at the turn of the century, back in 1899 or 98, somewhere in there. And same thing. I mean, it was like horrific. Thousands of people dead, devastation and so forth. So, it was kind of bizarre to kind of see this all playing out again over 100 years later. I still have family and friends in Puerto Rico. Again, I went to school there. My family's there. I had abuelas there, abuelos. I had uncles and cousins and so forth. Ron, I know, mi compadre, had his mother there, family and friends. And for me, it was really about, okay, what's the situation? You couldn't reach anybody. Phones were down, power was down, no water, right? No communication. And yet it just felt like there was something that we could do. So for me, and maybe this was based on my roots back in the day working with Allstate, we would have catastrophes hit obviously throughout the country. And as an insurer, we would always be one of the first ones there during a catastrophe to respond, to provide support, to be there to hug people. I mean, just to provide financial support, the rapid, applications of claims and processing claims. So for me, it was like, what can we do? What can we do now? So I still remember, back then just getting the call from Ron, because Ron was in the same boat. He was trying to listen and find out information that he could and learn about his mother. He was like, we got to do something. I said, well, let me talk to our CEO, David Holmberg, and I'm sure we'll be able to do some level of support. So one of the first things we did is we made a $50,000 contribution and essentially issued a challenge to the city of Pittsburgh, to our fellow business folks here in town. We had a press conference a few days after the hurricane hit with the Brothers Foundation. Roberto Clemente was with us. The junior was with us. So that was like the stimulus of it. And then after that, it was, okay, what else can we do? I was able to pull in other health plans across the Blue Cross Blue Shield network. We were able to secure quite a number of supplies from throughout the country. And we partnered with Brothers Brother. And then, as some of you may recall, we had a young lady here at that CMU, Rosana Guernica, who during that same time had been securing some charter flights on her own to Puerto Rico to help some of the elderly that literally were on life support get off the island and at least be able to maybe go to Florida or other places where they had families. So needless to say, we helped support Rosana during that time period as well. And Ron was actually able to be on one of those charter planes as a result of some of the connections that we were able to make to actually get his mother out of Puerto Rico and be able to have her be in Florida, probably saved her life. And just examples of all that. And during that period, I'm telling you, it just felt like there were angels coming from everywhere, coming to help, whether it was from the association, whether it's other companies, the Pittsburgh Pirates, colleagues, friends. People were just looking to say, what can we do to help? And we were just able to harness all that energy and be able to put it to good use. So for me, it was a very exhilarating experience. It was also a very emotional experience. It was inspirational. I felt energy coming from Clemente. I've got a picture of Roberto Clemente in my office. So every time we would have a conference call, I felt like he was over my shoulder saying, okay, good. Now, here's something else you may want to think about doing. We had friends on the ground in Puerto Rico, the Caguas baseball team there, other entities, the Blue Cross Blue Shield affiliate, Triple S in Puerto Rico. It was really what usually happens in Pittsburgh, as I've come to learn, that when something happens in Pittsburgh, when you take on Pittsburgh, you take on the whole city. And I felt like the whole city and a bunch of friends, colleagues, coalition of the willing were involved in that effort to help support it. So for me, it was, I wasn't so concerned about either me personally or my family personally. I felt they were going to be okay. For me, it was about what can we do to help? And besides, helping family out with supplies and so forth, I really felt that we made a difference for a lot of people's lives during that time period.
I don't think that that's just a feeling. I have heard so many firsthand stories of huge differences that you made in people's lives during that. The whole thing was amazing. And to see Pittsburgh come together, that's exactly the type of thing that we need now. I feel like normally after a disaster, people band together and take care of one another. And that's something we're going to touch on later with this pandemic that I know you're very passionate about. But I just want to touch on one more thing with Hurricane Maria and with Puerto Rico. There have been so many other things that have happened in Puerto Rico since then. Is there a way that people can help now? And what is the current status of everything with Puerto Rico? Do you have any projects going on?
So it's interesting. I think, as some of you may have seen, Puerto Rico, just had another storm that passed through about a week or so ago. Went right through the Caribbean again and into Florida. As I think is occurring right now in this country with the African American community, people of color. I think a spotlight has been put on essentially the systemic social injustice that still very much in play in this country and has historically been in play since the country's formation. And I think Puerto Rico is caught up in that same loop, so to speak. Formerly a colony of Spain, and all of the things that brings in terms of I would say oppression in many instances and control over people's lives. After the Spanish-American War, the U.S. then kind of became the oppressor, so to speak, as the colonizer, and actually securing Puerto Rico as a result, and in the aftermath as a spoils after the Spanish-American War. And ever since that time period, I think there has just been this ongoing systemic set of policies, procedures, and so forth that has negatively impacted and has been at the root of Puerto Rico's situation to date. So while if you're Puerto Rican, you're a U.S. citizen, if you live in Puerto Rico, you can't vote for president. You don't have representation in Congress, right? So you have taxation without representation, which one of the founding principles of this country. And then you've got the fact that there's been limited investment for many, many decades in the island, or there's been temporary aid. I still remember some of the laws that were put in place to help drive economic development that were sunsetted a few years ago that drove some pharmaceutical manufacturing, standing up there in the island, a lot of jobs and so forth. They got sunset after about 10 years or so, and it was at the root of some of the economic crisis. So it's felt like for many years, Puerto Rico has been this kind of stuck in almost purgatory. Right? So you're part of the U.S., but you're not really. You're a possession of the U.S. You're citizens, but if you're in Puerto Rico, you're like partial citizens because you don't have representation either in the presidency or in Congress. You have a chance to vote for your local elections, but so many of the obstacles about economic development, financial support, and so forth are driven by and decided by Congress and require an act of Congress. Policies and procedures that have been in place for many years with shipping and so forth, that it literally taxes Puerto Rico almost like if they were an international country, that's right now being challenged in the Supreme Court. So all of that, is baked into a long history of, a really kind of like complicated and multi-layered relationship with the U.S. A lot of Puerto Ricanos, probably more so now, living in the mainland U.S. than in Puerto Rico. So there's a diaspora here that I think probably needs to coalesce and come together to actually do what should have been happening for many, many years, which is actually vote and influence the representatives in Congress to finally either let Puerto Rico decide its destiny as either a state or as an independent country, and let the will of the people in Puerto Rico make that decision, and perhaps not stand so much in the way because of all the various bureaucratic, obstacles that somehow suggest, well, let's leave it alone since you guys can't decide what your status is. So I would say I would encourage people that are interested to read up on Puerto Rico's history. You had Maricel Vera on the I think one of the calls and interviews a couple of weeks ago. The book that she just finished writing, The Taste of Sugar, lays out a lot of that history. So get yourself informed. There's Centros of Estudios Puertorriqueños in New York that have a lot of information. And ultimately, I think as a diaspora, we just need to, what does Puerto Rico want? What do the citizens of Puerto Rico want? We've got family and friends there. What can we do as a bloc, a voting bloc, to support policies and procedures at the federal level that at minimum can give Puerto Rico a right to self-determination, and ultimately change some of the policies and procedures that have continued to probably handicap Puerto Rico's economic development, let alone its social and economic and political policies.
It's so interesting. We did talk about it 2 lives ago. So if you guys haven't seen that, it still exists on the Facebook page. It's going to be going up on YouTube. That book that you mentioned, The Taste of Sugar, really, it was amazing how it was able to tell the history. So I do hope that people look into that as well as some of these other resources. But it's just fascinating to know that this is kind of an untold history. So thank you for always promoting that in everything that you do.
Yeah, not just an untold history, but history that is still playing out today and influencing the situation today. So to your question, that has continued to play a role in current state Puerto Rico and in the future, unless something changes. So again, my urging would be get informed, have a better understanding, and then what can we do to help support what clearly needs to be socioeconomic and political change so that people on the island can self-determine. And if it's going to be a state, well, let's go ahead and get that done like Hawaii and Alaska, so that the citizens of Puerto Rico can enjoy full citizenship and all the benefits, responsibilities, and the representation that comes along with that. I think that's going to be very going forward.
Definitely. There's another theme. You are always about action. And you remind me so much of, I believe it was Roberto Clemente who said, if not us, who, and if not now, when. And I think that applies to everything that we're talking about. Another phrase that Fred uses a lot is pa'lante. And I want all of the young people, I know we have a lot of people watching from Pitt and from Gispia that follow our stuff, and they're looking to this generation of Latinos, such as yourself, who have come here, who have been successful, and they want to know, how do I do that? So tell us a little bit about how your education and your experiences shaped you for the career that you have today.
Well, it's interesting. Again, for me, I think early on, I was maybe one of those few exceptions of kids back in the day. I kind of knew what I wanted to do. Since I was a little kid, I wanted to play baseball. I wanted to study communications because I felt like, okay, after my baseball career, I wanted to retire and be a broadcaster. I wanted to replace the play-by-play guy in Chicago, for example, with Chicago Cubs. At that time, Jack Brickhouse and then Harry Carey. I thought I was going to be the Jack Brickhouse, Harry Carey of my generation. So for me, it was always a very focused plan. It was, I thought, laid out pretty early, and I just kind of went after that. Okay, here's the game plan. Here's where I want to go. Here's how I think I can get there. Let me just get after it. And that's what I did pretty much for the rest of my life. played baseball whenever possible, played in college, studied communications at Northern Illinois University, which had probably one of the better journalism communications programs, at least in the state, if not the country, during that time. So I was the radio guy at 6 o'clock in the morning before I would go to class. I would be the sports guy doing the play-by-play for college basketball, college football, baseball after I got cut after my sophomore year. And I felt like I needed to actually develop those skills and experiences if I really wanted to get after it versus somehow having it magically fall on my lap. It's not going to happen. So for me, it was always very focused plan, and then making sure that I always had at least a plan B, right? What's plan B? So I got cut from the baseball team as a sophomore. So that was devastating, but I felt like, okay, it looks like I'm going to have to start my sportscasting career a little bit earlier than planned. And that's what I did, right? I became one of the key anchors and just really dedicated my time to sportscasting, learning the craft, getting good at it, interviewing some of my former friends that were on the baseball team at the time, the football team, the basketball team, and really tried to hone those skills. And then after I graduated, just trying to get into the business professionally, and I felt like I needed to give it a shot. And I didn't really find an opportunity that I thought was the right one for me. The one that finally came along fell through the cracks as a result of some of the political situation in Chicago. I was going to work at the first Spanish language television station in Puerto Rico, in Chicago, by way of Puerto Rico, WBBS. And I got offered the job, and I told people where I was working that I was going to be, on the air and doing the sports cast in the evenings and so forth. And then the election came. The mayor who had made the contract with the broadcasting company did not get elected. New administration come into, that whole deal fell apart. So after a couple of months, after I told family and friends that I was going to be on the air in Chicago, I'm like, looks like never mind. The TV station is not actually going to be standing up for quite some time. And now actually there is some TV there, but obviously the window of opportunity closed. So for me, it's like, have a plan, be focused, right? Get after it, dedicate yourself to what it is that you want to do, whatever your passion is. But then always have, all right, because as our CEO, David Holmberg, likes to say, life is a series of S-curves. You're always going to find yourself having to perhaps go on an off-ramp, perhaps make a pit stop, perhaps make a turn along the way. And that's okay. But don't let that get you down. Just let that be an opportunity to course correct, readjust, and still keep going on your path. And believe in yourself. I think ultimately that's the game plan. I had the good fortune of starting my career early on at Allstate in an entry-level position in communications. And I got identified early on as a high potential because of some of the management experience I had during the time that I was trying to get into broadcasting. I sold women's shoes for a time period. I ran a restaurant, right? So I learned about merchandising and marketing and staffing and inventory control and customer service and sales. All of that helped groom me to take on that job. And as a result, I was able to get quite a number of opportunities at Allstate, and ever since then to really kind of sharpen the saw and get better at my profession. And I think that's one reason I was able to secure this position here, because of all of that work that I think ultimately was cumulative and led up to the opportunity that I had to join Highmark Health as Senior VP and Chief Communications Officer.
That's amazing. And I really love hearing that, because I think so many students, they want to apply for a job or they want to go after something and they don't know if they qualify. They don't know if they should apply. They don't know if they're enough or whatever it may be. What do you have to say to those students?
So I would say, believe in yourself, have at least, almost like, and you can do this in 5-year intervals if you like. To me, I already had a vision for it. This was going to be what I wanted to do. And I've had the good fortune to land, I think, pretty close to it in terms of comms and PR and so forth. And then stay close to baseball because it's one of the things that's always been part of me. But I would say start out with, where are you? What is your passion? What do you really have an interest in getting up in the morning every day and doing well? And do it, right? Do it either through internships, do it for yourself, look for exploratory conversations with people. But I think you have to, go down that path of actually developing your experiences and your skills. If you want to write, then you get good by writing. If you want to be a public relations person, you get good by being good with public relations and interacting with people, volunteering, whatever. So, identify what that destination is, figure out how other people have done it. If there's some really good books out there. One of my favorite books is Rites of Passage that I recommend to everyone who I've always interacted with, has worked for me, or that maybe is looking for some coaching. Rites of Passage, John Lucht, who passed away a few years ago, the executive recruiter who wrote the book. It's pretty much the Bible, if I can use that word, of managing your career, identifying opportunities, writing resumes, writing cover letters, what courses to take. If you get a call from a recruiter, what to say, what questions to ask. And it really is kind of laying out a path for yourself. What's the game plan? What school do I need to go to? What classes do I need to take? What internships might I need to get involved in? Who might serve as a coach or a sponsor for me? And just work it. Work your plan. Adjust it as you need to go, but keep going forward. That would be the best advice that I would give people. Just if you believe in something and believe in yourself, get after it, work it. You'll see examples and examples throughout all kinds of literature and books, case studies, that the people that have made it and have been some of the best in their profession is because they worked hard for it. Michael Jordan, for those of you that enjoyed Michael Jordan like I did back in the day, he probably worked harder in practice than anybody on the court. And that showed up in his game, right? And I think if for those of you that saw The Last Dance, despite some of his personal traits that maybe we may not be crazy about, the guy worked it. He developed his skills. He got cut from the basketball team as a sophomore himself. And he didn't sit back and say, well, I guess I'm not going to be a basketball player. He actually went out to prove his coach wrong. And he's been proving his coach wrong throughout his whole career. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't. In the words of our former president, si se puede, just get after it and keep working your plan. I think that's the best advice I can give.
Yeah, definitely. And, I think that is becoming a theme for, our speaker series in general, is that no matter what knocks you down, you can always get back up. I think that so many people, especially young people, when they see executives or writers or, any type of leader, especially, a minority or a disadvantaged person in any way, they just see the shininess. They just see the title. And I think it's so important to have these discussions and to let people know, we're all figuring it out all the time, right?
Yeah, and then I would also make a point to say, like, for example, my first job at Allstate, little story, a little anecdote. So, back at that time, clearly the representation in corporate America wasn't what it is today, even though there's still lots of gaps and lots of opportunities to have workplaces be more reflective and representative of the markets in which we compete, right? And markets we serve. So diversity and inclusion, right? Probably back then, not quite as pervasive as it is now, and still needs to be more. So when I had that interview, I had a great interview with several people, human resources, the person that ultimately was going to be my manager, great guy. It was an hour and a half interview. We probably spent 40 minutes talking about baseball, because he too was a Major League Baseball player, as aspired to it. And we just connected instantly just based on baseball, right? And then we got along really great, not just then, but afterwards. Pretty good career there. One of my last interviews was with the VP to whom my boss would report. And I remember, great guy. Ultimately, I had a chance to know and work with very closely for many years. But when I had just finished the interview with him, as we were walking out of his office and he was walking me over to my boss to escort me out, before they made a final decision, he turned around to me and he said, "And you're Hispanic, right?" I paused for a second, and I understood that one of the reasons why I was there was because I was the Hispanic guy that was gonna help them with their diversity. But I didn't get fazed by it. I didn't get offended by it. I just said, absolutely, born and raised in Juncos, Puerto Rico. Right? He nodded. We went. he was probably after that one of the strongest advocates for all the work that we were doing to drive a lot of socioeconomic and a variety of different programs that we were doing at Allstate for urban areas, including African American and Hispanic. So I didn't take it personally. So for me, my approach has always been to make the brown collar, black collar, Asian, make it be agnostic, make it be irrelevant. Why? Because you're there because you know what the heck you're doing. You're good at it. Demonstrate to people what it is that you do and how well you do it. Don't be so concerned about somehow wearing the badge of honor of being a person of color. It's not necessary. It's you happen to be Puerto Rican, you happen to be Black, you happen to be Afro-Cuban, you happen to be gay, whatever it is. Don't let that be your front brand. Your front brand should be someone who is reliable, someone who is confident, someone who somebody can count on, someone who knows what they're doing. There's a value that you're bringing to the table. You bring an extra level of perspective, passion, get after it, get it done. Oh, and yeah, by the way, I happen to be whatever I am. And then that could be, I would say, added value. You actually bring a dimension that maybe a lot of people don't have because you've got another experience perspective that you can bring to the table that may make a problem even better than it would have been had you not been in the room where it happens, so to speak. So that would be the advice I would have people, don't let the ethnicity, the color of your skin be what you're driving. Let who you are, what you stand for, the work that you're doing, the passion that you have, the conviction that you have, let that be what you lead with. This, to me, happens to be another added dimension and added value that you can leverage. When I was with Allstate all those years, I spent more time opening people's eyes to urban markets in Chicago, as an example, and across the country, to let people know, oh yeah, by the way, people do care about their homes also in the city. Yeah, we can insure these markets. Much of the work that we did at Allstate was because we made it a business case and demonstrated the value that this is a growth market, a growth opportunity versus somehow some, affirmative action kind of lever. And that's what drove a lot of the work that we did at Allstate. And most of the best companies that do it are because they know it's a business need. You want to be reflective of the markets that you serve, right? Diversity and inclusion is an added dimension that most companies, most organizations should have and value because it actually lets them, I think, better serve their customers that are equally as diverse and widespread. So that's to me has always been a formula for success.
That's actually the perfect segue to the topic that I want to talk about. I want to talk a little bit about diversity and inclusion and also corporate social responsibility and connecting with the community. A lot of people, like we just talked about, checking the box is so important to them. They want to make sure we've covered this, we've covered that. What is the next step beyond that? And why is that important for professionals, for corporations, and for small businesses as well?
Well, I think ultimately, like I was just saying, to me, it should be ingrained as part of your business strategy, right? If I remember at several of the companies, one of the things that I always admired about some of the leadership, just like I do here at Highmark Health, is this idea of what I would define as a balanced framework, right? Who are your customers? How are you trying to serve them? What's the value proposition that you're offering them? Okay, be clear about that and demonstrate that in everything you say and do. By the way, you can't serve those customers until you do a good job of serving your employees, right? Are they engaged? Are they aligned? Do they wake up in the morning believing in your vision and your mission and the strategy, right? Have you enabled them to create the kind of experience in the workplace that has them feel pretty good so that they're actually then demonstrating that and providing that level of service to your customers, right? So I believe that you can never get to the point where you're serving your customers well unless you're also serving your people well and creating an enabling kind of a mechanism with, your people strategy or your people vision, benefits, the entire end-to-end experience as an employee. Because that's the group that serves as your ambassadors that delivers on your brand promise to your customers, right? So those two are, I think they're interlocked. They're not mutually exclusive. You can't be focused on the customer and somehow have your employees along for the ride. It doesn't work. If you do that right, it lets you actually grow your organization, I think. and be able to grow it in the markets in which you wish to compete, so much so that other people have an interest in actually wanting to be with you as an investor, as a stockholder if you're a stock company, right? A bondholder if you're selling bonds, right? So there's an investment component for shareholders, stakeholders. And that leads ultimately to your ability to be able then to return a lot of that return on the investment back to the communities in which you live and work. So to me, I've always thought about it as a balanced scorecard. I jokingly have it in my office as a baseball diamond, right? Back to the baseball thing, right? So there's the customer, there's the employee, there's the kind of the shareholder, the investor, and there's the community. And companies that I think sustain themselves over the long term are the ones that create a really, really nice interrelationship between all those stakeholders and ensuring that what they say are consistent with what they do. And those ultimately demonstrate the winners and losers in the marketplace. That's the same approach that I live by and encourage people to think about themselves, right? Who are you? What do you stand for? You know, are when you engage with people, do they demonstrate some level of, wow, this person really is somebody I want to be with, I want to partner with, or whatever it is. So, you know, your own personal brand, I think, could be another way to think about it that way as well. Everything you say and do should be consistent, you know, and that, you know, when no one's watching, do you have the integrity to continue to, you know, fulfill what it is that you're maybe talking about?
Definitely. And I couldn't agree more on all of that. And two, I think it's healthy for the community, for everyone to be represented, which I know is something that you share. But what about the people who don't care about that, or maybe who don't even believe that? What incentive do they have? What is the economic, specifically the economic portion, because those who don't care about people care about money. Why is it beneficial to give back to the community and to be mindful of diversity and inclusion from that perspective?
Well, again, I go back to the connection between the marketplace and the workplace, right? This country continues to be probably one of the most diverse countries in the world, right? It's the land of opportunity, right? People literally die to try to come across oceans and rivers and any which way to get to this country because, you know, we got the Statue of Liberty saying, you know, come on, there's opportunity here. There is this promise that our founding fathers made that suggested this was the place to be if you want to kind of fulfill your dreams, right? So this country, as a result, through immigration and so forth, is very diverse. You know, slavery imposed some of that diversity on this country, and we're still dealing with the aftermath of that. But for the most part, you got a very diverse country, which means you have a very, very diverse customer base. I don't care what business you're in. There's going to be some variation of diversity, either diversity of thought, diversity of what people live, diversity of what people's interests are, what they're willing to spend their money on. So the more you are reflective of that marketplace with your products and services, which your people develop, if they're doing it right, they're doing it because they're bringing their diverse and inclusive lens to the conversation. Market segmentation, right? Targeted marketing, what will influence segments of the market to be interested in and have some interest in the products and services that you sell. Ultimately, that's the value proposition. And then if you do that right, I think it lets you do all these other things. So for us at Highmark, it's always been embedded within our culture, you know, that this is about marketplace and workplace. Diversity and inclusion is just another element of that business strategy and culture and value. And if we create healthier markets, stronger communities, communities and cities and regions and markets that are thriving, then that's good for business, right? And if it's good for business, it's good for the people that live in it, because that means jobs and growth and housing and economic development and purchasing and power and all that kind of stuff. So to me, this is a very interconnected, process here. I don't think it's either or, it's very interconnected. So I go back to marketplace and workplace. So organizations, if you're in business to do anything, and for those of you that are running businesses, that's part of the Hispanic Chamber, membership, that's you're serving certain customers. How best can you connect with those customers so that they can come back to you, buy your products, refer, recommend, and keep coming back? I don't think you could do that well unless you are really customer focused. and very customer centered with what it is that your customers are looking for and how you can deliver that. You can't do that unless you have the right people to be able to actually deliver on that promise.
Absolutely. So that brings me to our next topic. What do you think that Highmark and other large corporations can do during this hard time and this pandemic to help the community?
Well, it's interesting. So there's a couple of elements going on here. As far as I'm concerned, again, I go back to my insurance days on the personal lines side. We've been hit with two pretty significant Category 5 hurricanes here, right? The aftermath of obviously George Floyd's tragic death at the hands of police in Minneapolis, and all of that, aftermath and what that has triggered and what that has highlighted that still exists in this country with this just a pretty significant systemic, social injustice, right? That's pervasive that we need to address. And then we've, probably, I know people have talked about the possibility of a pandemic. I think Barack Obama and his administration brought this up maybe 5 years ago, and we're planning for it. And we saw it brewing as it was, coming out of China, even at the end of last year, beginning of this year. So then now we've got this horrific killer pandemic. So one of the things that we've tried to do to address both of those is to reaffirm our commitment to diversity and inclusion and make sure that we're just not talking about that, but we're actually living into it. So we've done quite a bit of work along that front historically, and we're doubling down on that effort, and maybe we can have a chat about that at some future point. But I would encourage you, if you're interested, to visit highmarkhealth.org and check out our website and see some of the information that we got posted in there to demonstrate what we're doing on that front. But I would say in the other catastrophe that we're dealing with right now that I wanted to spend a few minutes, and this is this pandemic, it's the fact that we got about 1,000 of our fellow citizens a day that are dying as a result of being infected by this virus, right? We got more than 161,000 people now that have died in this country as a result of this pandemic. We got, 5 million cases in this country. So it's clearly not under control. And yet there are probably some things that we can control, and that's our own behaviors. So that's what I want to spend a couple of minutes talking about, Melanie, because to me, since day one, we've been operating like this is kind of a wartime effort. We stood up our pandemic team on the AHN side of the business, back in February, and then it became an all-out enterprise, 24 hours, 7 days a week, focus on how do we do what we do in the healthcare space to meet the needs of the community, keep people safe, take care of our patients and members, do the same thing on behalf of the community, and be able to continue to deliver on that, for the past 5 months. That's been our work primarily for the past 5 months, to continue doing those kinds of things that we're in business for and that we were built for, right? Delivering health, wellness, healthcare when people need us the most. So that's been our focus for the last 5 months. And one of the ways we've been trying to do that, we've gotten together with other of our colleagues, if you will, in the chief medical office side, across various other community hospitals and other providers here in this market. And our chief medical officer and them got together and issued a recent letter that I really wanted to spend 2 minutes just kind of sharing with all of you, because so much of it is what you keep hearing about. And maybe it's because we keep hearing about it and thinking that it's okay, so we ignore it. And that's this whole idea of, doing what we can to protect not just ourselves, but protect others, right? So having a mindset that with this virus, we should all assume that we've got it, that we've been infected by it. And the reason why we wear a mask and encourage people to wear a mask is not so much to protect ourselves, but to protect you, to protect somebody else. So I protect you, you put on a mask because you're trying to protect me. And this is an opportunity for, I think, Pittsburgh and the greater Pittsburgh area to do what we do in every crisis, or when we get challenged with something, come together as a community and work together to work the problem. So a couple things in that letter. Wear a protective mask whenever you're around others and wear them correctly. So put them over your nose, right? It's a fashion statement, right? It's a political statement perhaps for some people. Whatever it is, wear the mask of your preference, but wear it. Wear it when you go out. Wear it when you're with a bunch of people. Wear it in the house if you got a bunch of people coming over to eat, right? You've got the virus. Help protect others. Others wear the mask to help protect you. Wash your hands.
Before you go, I just want to say one funny thing.
Yeah.
For those of you watching too. Have you guys seen, I know a lot of people, like you said, it can be a political statement. Have you seen the anti-mask masks?
I have not.
It has messages about not wanting to wear a mask right on the mask. So even if you disagree, you can still help protect other people and express your whatever.
Yeah. And it's become a little bit of a cottage industry, right? We've got about 1 million masks that we're partnering with 4 local community organizations right now that are actually putting together masks that we're sending out and distributing across the entire, the entire market as another way to kind of help people protect themselves and protect others. So this is not a political issue. I don't care what your political interests are, affiliate. This has nothing to do with politics. This is a politically agnostic situation. We've got a pandemic. People are dying. What do you do when there's a crisis? How can I help? And you can help by wearing your mask. I don't care what your politics are, right? So, and if you want to have a fashion statement to go along with it, make a political statement, great, but wear the friggin' mask, right? That's all we're asking you to do. Wash your hands, right? I know I have days where I'm like thinking, oh my God, I am going to, get blisters here in a second with how often I wash my hands. But it's important for you to wash your hands. Why? Because we're always touching stuff. We're touching our nose, touching our ears, touching laptops, iPads, whatever. Anything you touch is a potential source of contamination when you go outside, when you drive your car, when you're in the grocery store, whatever. So you want to wash your hands often because that is one way to mitigate the transmission of the virus, which usually is transmitted through your mouth or your nose or, whatever. So make it a habit. Physical distancing everywhere, right? We're not telling you and not suggesting that you not go outside and go for a jog, right? But we're saying be smart about it, right? Keep 6 feet apart from family and friends. You don't know where they've been. They don't know if you've been. Assume you've got the virus, protect them, have them protect you. Don't congregate in places where there's a bunch of people and people aren't wearing their masks. I mean, it's like a hotspot waiting to happen. We've seen that already happen in schools around the country. The baseball teams, the St. Louis Cardinals have 14 players that apparently didn't take care of business and now can't even play baseball because 14 or 15 of them have been contaminated. So be smart about this thing. If you're going to be out and about, if you're going to go to a restaurant or whatever that might be open, wear a mask. Check to see how that restaurant is doing. Are they cleaning tables? Do they have masks on? And just kind of be smart about it and be practical about it. And then if you've got some symptoms, call your doctor. Right? Get on the phone, send an email, do a virtual visit or whatever. And you want to first find out whether or not you've got any symptoms and kind of have that be an opportunity to kind of at least assess your situation. And then if you think like you've been exposed or whatever, but have no symptoms, stay home, right? Self-quarantine for whatever that 14 days it is that might need to be and see what it is that you may do yourself to keep it from spreading. And then at what time might you need to actually get some treatment? We've got, as some other organizations, that we've got mobile units that are going all over the city and the region. We've got a bunch of drive-in and drive-by testing places where you can also go. Usually we ask you to make a contact and have a chance to get an appointment, if you will, with the doctor. But you can get tested in these places, and then after 4 or 5 days, at least find out. And I guess more than anything else, like we've been talking about a lot, let's kind of care for each other. This is an opportunity for Pittsburgh to stand up and do what Pittsburgh does, which is you have challenged Pittsburgh. We're going to respond as a community together to this thing, and we're going to beat this thing. That's the only way we're going to be able to bend the curve and return to some semblance of normal if we just treat each other with more dignity and respect and care for each other and do some of these very simple practical things.
Yes, thank you, Fred. And in your position in corporate communications, how has this changed your everyday work? I can only imagine. It seems like communication changes every day.
Yeah. Well, I'm working from home, as you can see. I'm in my kitchen. I stay close to my kitchen because I want to make sure I have my cafecito whenever I can in the morning and in the afternoon, right? So I don't think I've drunk as much coffee as I've drunk over the last 5 months, but it's been keeping me very focused, if not completely awake. So for us, again, it's been a wartime effort. It's like any other crisis. We've been all in. Our senior staff has been all in. The entire organization has come together probably even more so than I think we ever thought could have been possible, in a very blended kind of a way as a payer, provider, and et cetera, to do two things: take care of customers, members, and patients, take care of our people, right? So I would say a good 20,000 of us are working primarily from home and have been since March. Our front lines in our hospitals at AHN, clinics, and so forth, they've been on the front lines, working the problem and meeting the needs of our patients and our members. So we've kind of been the backup network, enabling them to do what they do, working primarily from home. And we haven't missed a beat. We've got people working with laptops, phones, or whatever, using Zoom, using FaceTime, using Teams with Microsoft Office 365, making sure that we're doing what we need to do to meet the needs of our customers, despite the constraints that we have, and doing it mostly virtually or doing it with our front lines. So for us, for that first 30, 60 days of the pandemic, it was 7 days a week, pretty much 7 a.m. in the morning till at least 9 o'clock at night calls, literally back-to-back calls, conference calls, video meetings, and so forth, just to continue to work it. And then continue to try to do everything else that we're trying to do with our business strategy at the same time. And that's how you have to do it within a crisis. So for us, and for me personally, it's kind of been exhilarating. I feel like it's been a mission that we've been on, and it's been a mission that I think we've been able to fulfill pretty well, despite the constraints that we're all facing right now.
Absolutely. What resources can you share, and how can we share resources to help get people the information that they need?
Well, interesting question. Some of you may have already seen some of this. If not, just a reminder, there's a website that the Allegheny County Department of Health has, daily updates. So I would encourage you to go there. This is AlleghenyCounty.us/health department. I think, Melanie, you might be able to share this maybe as a postscript to this particular interview. So I would encourage you to check out the County Department of Health's website. A lot of good information there, a lot of reminders, and keeping track of kind of where the virus is, what the uptick is, things to stay away from, and for sure, policies, procedures to kind of subscribe to. Same thing with the Pennsylvania Department of Health, coronavirus in Pennsylvania. That's www.health.pa.gov, and it gets into the coronavirus pages. Would encourage you to do that. Really, really good information at Highmark Health. We got the Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield website. Also has some real good tips and information that I would encourage you to check out. That's at faqs.discoverhighmark.com. And then AHN has a website also, www.ahn.org/coronavirus. Those are 4 locally. There are more. Pick wherever you want to get the source, but get informed, have access to that information. The state also, for those business owners here that might be participating on the call, or that perhaps might see this after the fact, some opportunity to actually get some loans and some grants from the state. They've issued now another round of essentially CARES Act dollars that would be available for businesses across the state, and for sure, those businesses that traditionally have been perhaps most impacted, organizations run by, Latinos, Latinas, African Americans, people of color. I would encourage you to take a look at that as well. There may be some opportunity to help you prepare for reopening or continue to reopen and serve your customers well in a safe way.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Fred. I want to do some questions from the audience. We have some questions and lots of compliments that you can read later in the comments. So thank everybody. We might not get to all of them. This one is from Monica Malik. What tools do you use to keep your team engaged and motivated?
So it's interesting. Historically, for me, I've always been one of those folks that has, put people first. So before the pandemic, I would do coffees with Fred. I would literally have a cafecito with Fred every month with staff, monthly meetings, conference calls, etc. So we've kind of doubled down on that virtually, right? So now we'll do coffees with Fred via Zoom. People have a cup of coffee, we'll have a conversation, how people doing, share concerns, ideas, update each other. I do daily conference calls right now with my direct reports. They have the same kinds of meetings with them, so a lot of conference calls, really leveraging Zoom as much as possible. And then we're moving into Microsoft Office 365, so we're leveraging Teams as well. Anything you could do to continue to reach out and keep people in touch, open up the phone lines, be available for people. I think that's important. That's what we've continued to do during this time period. And we do that at the enterprise level as well. Lots of regular meetings, emails, and so forth. Just an opportunity to check in as often as you can, especially during a crisis like this.
So I realized what we're missing. I think you owe me a little cafecito. No, I'm just kidding.
I'll brew it up.
We have another question here from Roberto Ancona, maybe. Is there any suggestion on how to actively help our own Latino community, especially during this pandemic?
Yeah, so I would say share lessons learned, best practices for sure. Go to some of these sites that I just referred to, because I think all of us are trying to grapple with how best can we continue to serve our customers, run our businesses, do it in a safe way, right? And there's some best practices that are going on right now that I think we should subscribe to. Wearing masks, wearing gloves, right? If you've got a restaurant or if you've got any kind of a business, social distance, put stickers on the ground, make sure you create a safe environment for your employees as well as your customers. Look for those opportunities that I mentioned are available from the state government right now to get it in, some kind of financial support as well. Because I think ultimately we're all trying to get to a place where we're dealing with this thing until a vaccine is available. And we want to open up the markets, but we want to do it in a safe way and not put people at risk. There are ways to do that. If you got a restaurant, no more than half of your capacity should be open at times. Delivery services, pickup services, etc. But let's try to do it in a safe way so that, again, we protect our current customers and have them be future customers as well versus putting them at risk.
Absolutely. This question is, not a softball question. Ermina asked, what are companies who have been called out for not adhering to the practices they preach in line with social cultural movement do to improve diversity and inclusion? And I would add equity as well.
Yeah, so again, I'll go back to what I said before. This isn't something that you address with a press release. It's not something that you address with your CEO putting out a letter. Actions do the talking here. Now, words are important. As a communicator, words matter, right? But words matter and they have to align with your actions, right? And in this particular case, your actions do your talking for you. So if you've got a gap somehow in your organization in terms of what diversity and inclusion looks like, then shame on you, because this is America, right? We are a diverse and inclusive environment in some way, shape, or form across the country, right? There may be some pockets of deviation, but I think you really need to do almost an assessment of what's working, what's not working. Talk to your employees for sure. Have a better sense of who your customers are. If you don't have anybody in-house that serves as a chief diversity officer, maybe you need to get one. But I would argue, just think about diversity and inclusion as a business, as another lever in your business strategy. And ultimately, that means hiring people, retaining people, promoting people, growing people, meeting the needs of your customers. Again, think about that baseball diamond that I talked about. Who are your customers? How are you serving them? Who's serving them? Who are your employees? How are you serving them? Are you enabling them to meet the needs of your customers? You can't do that in a diverse marketplace if you don't have a diverse workplace, in my opinion. You're going to then be able to attract investment because people see that you're a growing organization that's enlightened, that's a good corporate citizen, that walks the talk, is doing the right thing, and not just talking about it, and being able to have that same reflected in your commitment to society and community as a good corporate citizen, as an investor in the markets in which we live and work. So the formula is there. This is not. I think this is more about conviction than anything else. If you have an interest in it and if you want to do it, the playbook is there. Run the place.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. Fred, thank you so much for being with us. For those of you who tuned in late, we did hear about a little bit about Fred's history, where he's from. Fred's a Boricua. We heard about his journey to becoming a corporate executive. We heard a little bit, about COVID, how you can protect yourself. We heard about corporate social responsibility, diversity. There are tons of good topics, not only in this live, but the past lives that we've done. So I encourage you guys to review those. Fred, do you have anything that you want to wrap up with?
Yeah, so again, Melanie, thanks for having me on. It was fun. I would encourage you to get more of our Latina leaders, community engaged. I know you're planning to do that, so looking forward to future conversations. But let me, again, public service announcement, again, for everybody. Wear your mask, wear it correctly, wash your hands regularly. Clean and touch your surfaces that you come in contact with regularly. Practice social distancing. Pretend, believe, assume that you've got the virus. So wear the mask so that you can protect somebody else. Have somebody else wear the mask to protect you. Call your doctor if you've got symptoms and so forth. Otherwise, stay home as much as you can. You want to determine whether or not you've got symptoms or not symptoms. That's clearly dictating the numbers of people that are getting tested today. And more than anything else, let's just continue to care about each other, like I know this Pittsburgh city and this Pittsburgh market does. We're in this together, and we're going to beat this thing, but we're only going to beat it if we work together. And in the meantime, pa'lante.
Well, Fred, thank you so much. And I also want to make sure that that we thank Highmark for your ongoing support over the years of the Chamber, the Hispanic community, the community at large, really. And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. For those of you who haven't seen this before, the Latino Pittsburgh Digital Speaker Series is an initiative of the Pittsburgh Metropolitan Area Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And our goals here are to share relevant information that inspire growth and foster opportunity. Speakers include community leaders and members, as well as other individuals who have positive impacts, not only on the Pittsburgh community or on the Hispanic community, but the Pittsburgh community at large. I hope that you guys are going to tune in next week. We're going to be talking with Jesus Torres, who is the Vice President of the Davis Financial Group. Coincidentally, Jesus is also from Puerto Rico. He is a member of our board. We very much look forward to speaking with him. And if you want to become a speaker, you can email chamber@pmahcc.org. And don't forget to follow us and subscribe so you can just see it pop up whenever we have a live instead of all those texts and messages you got from me. But I'll still send them. Thank you guys for tuning in and have a great day.